I had so many reasons, so many excuses I could have come up with to not take that next step. I could have just gone home and said, "Look, I can't do this. It's all too much," and just tossed it out the window. But I didn't. I actually faced it, and I said, even if I'm hurt right now, even if I'm facing these challenges, what is the number one thing that I'm capable of doing right now? Well, I'm capable of showing up for myself,
Yeah.
right? I'm capable of showing up. So
Welcome to the show. I would like to welcome to the show Eesha, which is a galactic contact expert. And Eesha, I'm glad for you to be here.
thank you for having me.
So my first question will be, what were you before your awakening?
I was a human being. And so I guess my experience of life before the awakening was more around just exploring who I am. I mean, I was quite young when it happened, this
Oh
also
wow.
started for me in my 20s. So before that, I went to school. I was studying my engineering degree, then I did my teaching degree. I was in a relationship. So I kind of was just exploring life, as most people do.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2015 is when a lot of that changed. So that's when I went through the awakening experience and realized that there's a lot more to life than what I had thought.
Yeah. Oh wow. So so what happened, like what triggered your spiritual awakening?
I think it was two things. One was that I've always been very curious about this sort of stuff. So I've always had this desire to know the magic of the universe. And even when I was a teenager, I was reading books about magic and witchcraft and like whatever I could get my hands on. So I was always very interested in that. But then what really triggered it at that next level was coming out of that relationship that I was in my early 20s, and that kind of led to the spiritual awakening. Because when I got out of that, I just suddenly had this big shift in my vibration. And because of that, I was able to suddenly, like, my psychic abilities started kicking in. I was able to channel, I started connecting with the galactic beings. But, to be fair, I was also meditating regularly. So it wasn't just one thing. I think I had a lot of things in place, those foundations that were there, so that when that moment did happen for me, I had that backing behind me, because I've been meditating consistently for at least 2-3 years at that point. So I kind of had that as a foundation, and then everything opened up and I was able to navigate that a lot better because I was already meditating and had a daily practice.
Oh wow. So you're like technically channeling Galactic Federation or councils?
Well, the first galactic race that I met was actually the Acturians. So
Mm-hmm.
the Acturians from the Acturius star system, they came to me very early on, and they actually gave me sacred geometry codes for healing. And so I went down the healing path and the spiritual mentor path for quite a number of years before I stepped fully into being a galactic ambassador. So first it was the Acturians, then it was the Pleiadians, and then over time, a lot of other races made themselves known to me. So I'm an ambassador for the Galactic Federation. But that's just, yeah, because I've connected with so many different races over the years, and now I've kind of stepped into this new position that I'm in right now.
Oh wow. So what does it feels like to meet non-humans, for the audience who's like scared, for because we are not scared of beings that is humanoids, right? But some entities are not really bipedal humanoids, and some are like mantises, deerans, like cat-like. So have you encountered non-humans as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I've connected with over 20 different races, some of them humanoid, some of them non-humanoid. I've met the mantid beings, I've met the reptilians, I've met there's jellyfish beings in the IC443 population. I've met the whale and dolphin beings in the Sirius star systems, the feline beings with the Lyrans. So many different beings. But it's like you mentioned this fear that people have. It's only fearful because it's unknown. Like
Yeah.
if you saw if you had never seen a cat before in your whole life and a cat walks up to you, you might be scared, right? Because you've never seen a cat before and you don't know if it's going to attack you, you don't know what it's going to do. But now we know, okay, cats are pretty friendly, like most of them won't attack you, you just kind of leave them be. And same with dogs, like you see a dog on the street, but like if you've never seen a dog before, you might even be scared of a dog. So it's not really the beings that are scary, it's that we as humans are afraid of the unknown. And how we get past that is we expand our consciousness to familiarize ourselves with what's actually out there, because then it's not scary. I don't get scared when I connect with the Federation. I just greet them like an old friend because I've seen them 100 times.
Yeah. So that's so nice. Normally, do they take you on a tour to the like where the assembly is, or take you in a ship or something like that? Well, tell me more of your interesting experience that you have with the Federation or any entities.
So many. I have so many experiences because I now have a constant connection with them. So 24/7 that line is open, so I don't need to sit and go meditate to have the experience. I just have the experience. And yeah, on many occasions I've seen the starships, I've seen many of their home worlds. I've been taken to Arcturus, I've been taken to the Pleiades. I've visited even the inner earth realm, so I've seen some of the spaces in the Agarthan area as well. I've been on some of the craft, so I've seen what's like, for example, I've seen um like some of the Federation ships and their core crystals and some of the beings on board, some of the technologies that they have, like on the Arcturian starships. I've seen some of the Arcturian healing beds. So many experiences.
Oh wow. Have you tried some of those ceiling beds or something?
Oh, absolutely. So when I first connected with the Arcturians,
Mm-hmm.
they showed me lots of different ways that we can heal ourselves. And I think healing, the phase of healing plays a really big role in the consciousness and the evolution of consciousness. Because when we are coming from a place of, when people are coming from a place of trauma or fear, or, not really being in our full selves, those things actually create blockages to having that galactic connection. So I think healing is one of the first steps in the journey. You need to heal from your past. You need to heal from your traumas. You need to heal your body. Sometimes even just healing the physical symptoms and the ailments, because all of those things keep you in that lower vibration. So healing was one of the first things that I got shown. And they said that, after you heal, because they also said to me, healing is not the be all and end all. I see people that have been healing 20, 30, 40 years. And I'm like, you do stop healing at some point. It's one phase. It's only one phase of the journey. So
Yeah.
you go through your healing phase, then you come out the other end of that and you realize, okay, I'm a conscious creator. When you get to that phase of consciousness, then you don't stop healing, but it's no longer your primary focus, because when you're a conscious creator, like things will come up to be healed, like you might realize you've got some deep rooted emotion from a long time ago and it can come up and it can be healed, but you're no longer focused on healing because you're focused on creation. So the Arcturians, they first gave me a series of tools for healing, for example, sacred geometries and like the healing light beds. They showed me how to use crystals for healing, because there's a lot of things that they use
Yeah.
in their civilization. And when they showed it to me, I thought, okay, well, this will make sense. I learned how to work with soul frequencies and DNA activations. So those were all things that they taught me. And then once I implemented all of that, I first created a modality around it. So origin activation, I taught to facilitators all around the world. And then after that phase kind of came to a conclusion for me, they said, okay, you're no longer in the healing phase, you're now in the creation phase. Let's look at what's next. What's the next level? So what that looked like for me was realizing that actually we can be changing entire industries by connecting with these galactic beings, and healing is one of them. Because, for example, if the people who can build technologies, and some of this is already on Earth now, but like this has been coming through for decades, the healing beds that they have on the Arcturian starships and on their planet, they can heal everything just through frequency. They don't need to do like physical surgical insertions or anything like that in order to heal, because they understand the energy of every organ and the energy of every cell, and they can tweak that so that the healing can happen in a very non-invasive kind of way. So some of those technologies we now do have. We have some medbed type technologies that are here on Earth, and people are playing around with that sort of thing. And so a lot of those technologies come from the galactics.
Oh, wow.
So that's one example of technologies that we can have access to. And so when you move past the healing phase and you go into creation, you start asking different questions like, how can I be in my highest service? Or how can I contribute in a greater way to the evolution of the planet? That allows you to be in a more receptive state to going beyond just the personal, healing and all of that, and go, well, how can I serve humanity? Well, the solution to that is opening and expanding your consciousness. Start connecting with the galactic races and learn from them, learn their wisdom. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. They've
Yeah.
already done it, and we can evolve much faster as a human race if we work together with our galactic family and take their wisdom the same way that a child can be left to fend for themselves in the bush and they'll go wild, right? And they might take generations to figure it out. But if they have parents who've already learned stuff and the parents teach the children, then the children are going to learn much faster, and then their generation can create and add to the world instead of just figuring out the same stuff that the parents figured out.
Yeah.
So in that same way, as a human race, we can invite the connection with our galactic family. We can work together with them for our evolution.
Oh, wow. So on my other thing about channeling is that because not everyone are gifted to channel higher beings, and sometimes you are being prepared for it on your lifetime so that you can harness or technically contain that energy to channel. And what will be your advice for those who's trying to channel?
Everyone can learn how to channel. You don't have to be chosen. I learned how to channel. I wasn't born with this gift. So I can tell you there's a step-by-step process that you can follow. And this is what I teach. You can come join me in the 5D Empire if anyone's curious. I have a program that teaches this step by step because anyone can learn how to do this. It is just a case of when you learn any new skill, you have to put the time and energy and dedicate yourself to that. Like you go to college to learn how to be a doctor. You go to school to be a nurse. You go to school to be a lawyer or an engineer. Like we spend years learning that stuff, right? And
Yeah.
people just think that's normal. Well, it's the same thing. You want to learn how to connect with galactic beings. If you put in the same amount of time and investment that you put into college into this, you can learn this. It's
Yeah.
not even as much. It's actually easier to learn how to channel than it is to be a doctor. I can tell you that right now. So it's just having the commitment and the dedication, putting yourself to applied practice every day. Most of my clients within 3 months are able to connect with their higher self as a starting point, and then from there all the different connections open up. So if you can commit to 3 months of meditation and mentoring, you can at least get the starting points, and then from there you can keep going.
Yeah. I think I always keep on telling them it's like psychic gifts, it's not really a gift, it's a skill that you can train on. It's like a muscle. So the more you train it, the more clear you get. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and everything is a gift. You are a gift. You're a gift to the planet.
Yeah.
Even if you're a dentist or a doctor, that's your gift. So this is
Yes.
just another thing. Even if you have a gift of music or engineering or building, construction, whatever, I think we all come to the planet with gifts, but even then you still have to learn it. You still have to learn how to go play a piano. You still have to learn how to ride a bike. You still have to go learn how to use the tools to be a dentist. So yes, it's a gift and it's a skill because it needs to be honed in. We have this human body as a soul. Your soul knows everything. Your soul doesn't need to learn how to be a dentist or a lawyer or an engineer. But in this human lifetime, in this body, in this form, there is a learning process that happens. So when we embrace that and we go, okay, well, in this human form, I came to Earth, I forgot my connection. That's what happens. A lot of people forget the skills that we already have. Well, then you go back and you learn it like you would with any other thing.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So the next one is like on term of guidance, like how do you get your guidance, and do you sometimes deviate from the guidance as well?
I definitely have. It's never worked out well for me in those moments. So We have free will. We absolutely have free will. We can choose to do whatever we want on this planet. If I want to not do anything in my soul mission this whole lifetime, I can just wander off and do my own thing. And there is so much grace in that. When I get back to heaven on the other side, no one's going to tell me off for doing that. They're just going to say, okay, you made your choice. Like, there is so much love, there is so much grace in that. But what I've noticed, and this is just through my personal experience, is when I do go off the path or off the guidance, life feels like a struggle. I feel like I'm not aligned. I feel like things aren't flowing for me because I'm not on my path. And so when I come back to my path and I start listening to the guidance and I start following it and stop resisting, this beautiful life that I actually already created for myself, what happens is I feel happier for that. I feel better. I feel like things are more in flow, things are more joyful, there's more synchronicities, more alignments, more abundance, all of those things happen. So it's almost like, yeah, you have a choice, but there's a consequence to that choice. It's exactly the same. Like, if imagine you're walking through a forest and there's a beautiful brightly lit path that's available for you, and there's signs on it that says go this way, and you decide, and you can totally do this, you can go off the beaten path and you can go do your own thing, and probably what will happen is you might encounter a wild bear and some crazy snakes and some weird stuff, and you might get lost out there, and you're still going to be okay, because at the end of it all, you're still going to get out the other side of the forest, maybe a little bit more beaten up than if you just taken the that was laid out for you.
Yeah.
So you always have a choice. You always have a choice. And there's nothing wrong with going off the beaten track. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But everyone comes to this planet with their pathway, their soul aligned pathway that has been beautifully laid out. And guess who created it? You created it. You created your beautiful path before you came to the planet. And if you decide you want to not walk it, you can absolutely do that. I just think, after a while you go, well, I might as well just follow the path I made because, well, it's more joyful, it's more fun, and I'd rather have this as an experience. So that's where I've kind of landed with it and gone, well, I did create this life for myself. Some version of me in the higher realms before I was born created this, chose this, and so just do it. Stop having a whinge about it, and just get to it. So when I reached that phase, I was like, it was almost like a surrendering to the divine plan, to the divine will, and going, this is what I'm here to do. I'm not going to muck around anymore. I can exercise my free will if I want to, but what if I align my free will to the divine will and actually just do what it is I'm here to do? And there's a really beautiful space of love in that, where you surrender. What's happening is you're actually surrendering your ego to the divine will and the divine path that you've already decided upon, that has already been chosen for you, and things start to flow in this really beautiful, loving way. That's been my experience.
Wow, that's beautiful. So for those who's like just starting to awaken or just starting to get the curiosity of having to expand on spirituality, what would be your advice to them? Because with too much information out there, so everyone's like, do I have to do this? Do I have to do that? So they're getting confused as well. So what would be your
The
advice
number
for
the
them?
number one thing would be to get a mentor, because the thing is, the person who's walked the path before you is going to be able to see things that you don't see. One of the first things that I did, I invested in a spiritual mentor when I was 20 or 21 years old, and that's
Mhm.
how I am right now, like being like so far advanced in my practice, is because I started really young. If I just left it to YouTube to teach me, I think I would have been very lost as well. But because I actually made the commitment to myself that I wanted to do this, I invested the time, I invested the money, I made it my priority. And guess who got the benefit out of it? I did. I'm now in my 30s. I'm fully connected to all my guides. Some people don't figure this stuff out till they're 50, 60 years old.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
make it a priority, the same way that, if you want to learn how to be the best chef on the planet, you would go to college and you would learn that. Well, go to spiritual school, learn the skills that you need to learn. And I think, I know I'm a little biased here, but I think it's the only skill you ever need, because once you learn the skill of how to connect to your consciousness and your guides and your higher self, everything else becomes more expansive and actually easier for you. People will struggle for decades and go through these big life hardships, and then in their 40s and 50s they'll have a midlife crisis and then decide to pursue spirituality. Well, start when you're young, start when you're 20, start when you're 30. Don't wait till you're 60 years old to figure this stuff out, because it is the most important skill that you'll ever have. Once you know it, you never forget it either. Once
Yeah.
you have your connection to your guides, they will help you, they will guide you. So people like myself, I now mentor others as well. But I had a mentor when I was younger. And because of that mentoring, I accelerated a lot faster through my journey. I also didn't get caught up in all the nonsense that I didn't need, because there's a lot of stuff out there. If I'd spent decades of my life trying to read all the books and figure it all out myself, I think I would have been very lost. So my number one advice is choose a pathway that you want to explore, and then get someone to help you with that. Get someone who's walked the journey before you, because you don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Somebody else out there who's maybe older, wiser, more experienced has done it the same way that you go to university to learn the skills from somebody who's done it. You can go to spiritual college and learn so that you don't have to be lost, that you can just have a clear pathway. That's your pathway. And every person's pathway is unique as well. And a
Yeah.
good mentor will be able to see what's best for you. They won't try and tell you just a generic cookie cutter model. They'll be able to see for each person what is their pathway. And that's when you get on track with the life that you're supposed to live.
Hopefully they're not overwhelmed. I
It
think
can
it's
be very overwhelming.
yeah.
There's a lot out there. There's too many books and too many movies and too many people's experiences, and at the end of the day, there's, you can learn from everyone, but you're only ever going to have your path, and your path is your path,
Yeah.
right?
Your
It's
own
always going
truth.
to,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I think also if the student's ready, the master will just pop up anyway.
That's 100% been my experience as well, because I was just so willing at such a young age
Mm-hmm.
that the people that have mentored me, you won't find them anywhere. They're not there.
Yeah.
They don't have public profiles. Like, one of them, it doesn't even have like a website. I don't even know if they're teaching anymore. But at the moment that I needed that knowledge, they were able to guide me through that. And it was life-changing for me. But also I took the action as well. Like when they invited me to work with them, I said yes, and I paid for it. And I, even though I was a student, I made it happen. Like, so there is that element of you have to meet the universe halfway. Yes, the
Mm-hmm.
mentor will appear, but you also have to step up, and you have to be willing to say yes, and you have to be willing to overcome the obstacles in the way as well, because the universe will test you in your early stages. The universe will test you. It will ask you and say, are you really ready for this? And
Mm-hmm.
do you want me to give you a story about that? I have a really
Sure, go
great.
go ahead.
So this was one of my very, very early experiences in my early 20s. This was before my awakening, but I was kind of just starting out. And yeah, I'd signed myself up to this women's retreat that I wanted to do. And and I was a student. I didn't have a lot of money at the time, and it was quite a few $100s, which is a lot of money, for a student. So, but anyway, I found a way to make it happen. I got the money together, and I went to this thing, and on the morning of that retreat, there was this, like, they had a yoga sort of thing on the beach, and everybody went to the beach, and we're doing this thing. And then at the end of the yoga class, everybody had their swimmers on. We ran into the ocean to cleanse ourselves. And as we were doing that, I actually tripped and I fell, and I hurt my ankle actually pretty badly. Like I probably should have taken it straight to a doctor,
Oh,
but the thing is that I heard this message that came through, and it just said to me, this is your test. Are you really ready for this? And I didn't know what was going to happen at this retreat. I didn't know what was going to come out of it. I just knew that I wanted to be there, and something about the thing really pulled me. So I had to overcome a number of obstacles in order to come out the other side of it. One of the obstacles was financial. I had to find the
mm-hmm.
money. The second obstacle was I'm now on the beach with a really hurt ankle, like the morning of the 2-day retreat, And I really had to check in with myself and go, what is this? And when I realized it was a test, I was like, yes, I am ready. And so I ended up, like, I was dating that guy at the time. I had a big fight with him that morning as well. And so it was everything, like everything was piled on top of itself, you know. So I was angry at him. I'd stormed out the house. I had this, you know, hurt ankle, and you know, and financially, like I had so many reasons, so many excuses I could have come up with to not take that next step. I could have just gone home and said, "Look, I can't do this. It's all too much," you know, and just tossed it out the window. But I didn't. I actually faced it, and I said, even if I'm hurt right now, even if I'm facing these challenges, what is the number one thing that I'm capable of doing right now? Well, I'm capable of showing up for myself,
Yep.
right? I'm capable of showing up. So I got myself up off the sand. I was crying. I was a big mess. I was crying at this point. I was sore. I was emotionally hurt. It was terrible, you know. And then I got in my car, and I think I at that point got my boyfriend to drive me because I couldn't even drive because I had a sore foot, right? So I got my boyfriend to drive me all the way to this retreat. Even though we were having a fight, I was like, just take me there and we'll figure it out later. So he drove me there, dropped me off. And I arrived almost an hour late to this retreat. So everyone else had already kind of started, and I felt like I was coming in and I was a mess. And they were, you know, when I walked in, they were starting to do some like dancing and stuff. And I'm just sitting on the floor crying, you know, because I can't move. My ankle hurts. I'm a big mess. I got sand in my bathers, like because I fell over, right? Everything was miserable. And so it was a choice. It was a choice. Like, even though I didn't feel amazing, even though everything wasn't working out for me, I made the choice to show up. And that to me became one of the most powerful lessons that followed me through several years of my life. Because when I was going through my healing phase where things weren't in alignment, things weren't flowing, everything was chaos, like, you know, I didn't know what the hell I was doing with my life. The one thing that I knew I could do was I could show up for myself, whether that was showing up for my daily practice, whether that was showing up to these courses I wanted to do, whether it was showing up to my studies, I could show up. Even if I was not happy, even if I was confused, even if I was sad, even if I was heartbroken, I still had the choice to show up. And I kid you not, every time I chose to show up instead of backing away, the universe rewarded me for that. And so I am now. My life is amazing. Like everything's in flow, it's beautiful, I'm abundant, like, you know, everything's great. But I will never forget those early days where I had to be the one to step up and say yes, and the universe tested me like there was no tomorrow. So, you know, for people who are maybe like not experiencing that flow and that ease that they want to be, just look around at the world, and then ask yourself, how can you show up in a greater capacity? Because I guarantee that every time you choose to show up for yourself, you show up for your mission, you show up what you're here to do on the planet, you show up to be more love on this planet, you will be rewarded for that.
Yep. Technically, that's the most simplest of advice that is the hardest to do, just to show
Absolutely.
up. And
Absolutely.
I was even talking about this, like being showing up, just going, like, let's say you go to school and you have to go to this way, and your guide say just go walk this way. Your soul contract may be just walking this way. Someone sees you and get distracted and finally notices that he's going the wrong way and corrects, so accident is averted. So I always tell them that sometimes your purpose is not a big grand purpose in the end. It's sometimes their small one. Even being a daughter or being a father is a purpose, and being to help that stranger just cross the street is your purpose for that day. So there's a lot of purpose, and your day may have like a ton of it. So you don't have to
Oh,
keep on looking
absolutely.
for one big
And
brand. Yeah.
I have been shown that on so many occasions as well. Like one time I drove 3.5 hours down south to
Oh.
save a butterfly. Like actually to
Wow.
save a butterfly. And maybe it saved me. I think actually probably it saved me. But I went all the way to this place, and I didn't know why I was going there. I was actually planning to go further down. So I'm currently in Perth, Western Australia. So 3 hours down south is a little town
Mhm.
called Bailing Up. It's a very tiny town. People go there just for holidays, and it's a very small like country town. And then a couple hours further south of that is Albany and Denmark. And in those two places, so I thought originally I wanted to go to Albany. So I was going to go all the way down. I was going to stop at Bailing Up on the way and then continue onwards. And so I got to Bailing Up. And as soon as I got there, I just felt, it was just really like in this intuitive flow. And then I just heard, go for a walk down by the river. And so I put my things in, whatever. I'm just chilling by the grass. I suddenly just get this like little nudge. So I go for this walk. And as I'm sort of partway through, I saw this butterfly that had its legs up in the air. So it was like on its back. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought, oh, that's no good. All I did was I put my finger down. I picked up this butterfly. So its legs latched onto my finger. And I was expecting the butterfly to fly off. It didn't. This butterfly sat on my finger the entire way, 20-minute walk back to where I was staying, stayed on my finger the entire time, all the way through to the evening. And then eventually I was like, well, I'm just going to put it like in my room. And I had this beautiful rose quartz crystal that I take it down with me. So I thought maybe the butterfly has a broken wing, maybe it's hurt, whatever. So I thought I'll just send it some healing. So I placed this butterfly onto this rose crystal, and then eventually I think I gathered a little container with some grass and I like made a little home and
Yes.
everything. So I was like, oh, it's not flying away,
Yeah.
And by this point, I thought maybe the butterfly is about to die and I just get to be with it in its like final days, or final hours. And so I just thought, well, how blessed am I, and all the way down there to bring this butterfly and maybe heal this butterfly. So, in the evening, I was sending it a healing light and everything. And in the morning, I woke up, butterfly's still there. And the butterfly could have left at any time. It could have left at any time. It was just there the whole time. And so then I went outside, and the next morning I set up a picnic blanket. Again, I had my healing crystal there, the butterfly was there, and then suddenly it just got up and flew away. And I was like, so, I don't know if I healed it. I don't know, like, I don't know what happened. All I know is this butterfly stayed with me for hours, like through the whole night and into the morning. This butterfly stayed with me, and it was the most beautiful experience. And I remember thinking in that moment, like, if I came all the way to planet Earth to have this moment with this butterfly, I feel like my life is complete.
Yeah, that's
That's it.
awesome actually. Very awesome.
It's those little moments. It's those little moments. We underestimate them so much. I'm like, that was everything to me. Me and this butterfly had a connection. And if that was my life purpose, I'm happy. I'm fine. You know?
You know how much we take for granted insects because they're small and we think it's insignificant, but once you go into spirituality, suddenly you see a ant or a small spider, like go go go, I'm about to broom up that area. So you start
Exactly.
to respect everything. So, oh boy,
Exactly.
one thing that they want to discuss when I say they is like my guide. It's like, what is your point of view about people's encountering dark entities or negative entities on their journey as well?
So the thing with this universe is that everything exists inside of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything. It's a free will universe. That's
Yeah.
the whole point. So the same way that here on planet Earth, we have really amazing humans, really kind, beautiful people. And then there are murderers and people who rape people. And there's, people who are maybe really traumatized and acting out in really, horrific ways and violent ways and mass shootings. And there's a lot of stuff that happens. So we have the whole spectrum, even just on Earth. When we go out into the rest of the dimension and the rest of the realms, all of that still exists, but to a point. In
Mm-hmm.
the higher realms, it actually doesn't exist. But as long as you're in the third dimension, fourth dimension, there are going to be beings out there who, like many humans, are on their own journey of evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of reptilians who get a bad rap, I mean, they're evolving just like we are,
Yeah.
we're not exactly the highest vibing beings in the universe either. So, we give the reptilians a bad rap. Well, look at the humans. Like
Yes.
we haven't even worked out global peace yet. So we're not exactly ones to judge. So I think it's just about acknowledging that there is a range of frequencies. And as you go out and expand your frequency, and you start stepping out into the multidimensional realms, you do need to have a level of discernment in who it is that you're allowing into your field. Because, you know, if you're walking down some random street and you see a really shady looking person, you're not going to walk up to them, right? Like if
Mm-hmm.
you feel unsafe, you're not going to walk up to them. But if you see a beautiful you know, person in an event that you're at, or even in the shopping center, you might strike a conversation with them.
Yeah.
You know, so even here on earth we have a level of discernment around the beings that we interact with and the people that we choose to have connections with. And yes, everything is love, and yes, I believe it's all beautiful, but be wise out there too. Be wise, you know, because there are negative entities out there. And when I say negative, I don't even like to use the word negative because it's so polarizing, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just there are beings out there who are at different stages of awareness, just like us. And so when I do connect, and when I teach my clients to connect as well, I always say to them, you know, set the intention that when you're learning, just set a really high vibrational space, connect with the angelic realms, connect with the high vibing realms first, so you can kind of understand. And once you get your bearings a little bit, then sometimes, you know, sometimes you may have to go into a darker part of the universe to maybe do a clearing or to do some sort of planetary mission. But I think that stuff comes a bit later on down the track, after you kind of know what you're doing and after you know how
Yeah.
to hold your light. Because if you go into a darkness and you can't hold your own light, then that's where things get really dicey. But if you can see the darkness and you can still be centered in yourself, then you can go in and you can transmute it, no problem, you know?
Yeah.
So you have to be centered in yourself if you're going to be going into those realms.
Very true. So um what are the services that you are offering for the audience?
So I have a couple of different things. One is my podcast, First Contact, that
Mm-hmm.
people can listen to. The other is a paid membership program, which has a digital library of all of my programs and activations that I've created in the last few years. And that really, it's for people who want to get to their next level in spirituality, for people who want to open up to galactic consciousness, want to connect to their higher self. Like I said, you know, it's a learned skill. We know that now. It's a learned skill. All you need is the right program or the right process to put in place. And so the 5D Empire is the perfect starting point for that, where whether you're just starting out or ready to get to that next level, the activations there will really help you elevate your consciousness in a very guided, supported kind of way, so you can receive that next level of mentoring for your level of evolution.
Well, so just a curious question. On your timeline, do the ETs or galactics in our terms, do they manifest in your reality already?
In what sense?
I mean, like you can see them right off the hop, like when you go outside, you can see them or something like that. Because when I talk to some people, some because they're still starting, they couldn't vibe like match the frequency. And some who are like they're talking outside, then just a UFO just fly through or something like that, then say hi, then wave go, something like that. So on which in your timeline do they are in Earth right now, or they even greet you, just pass by, something like that? So how do you interact with galactics on your
Right, right.
timeline?
Yeah, so I have a lot of physical sightings and connections. I mean, I can just go out into the night sky. In fact, 2 nights ago, I went out for a walk and just saw a Hathor starship give me a little flyby, you know. And I know it's them because they come to me as I was falling asleep. They came to me in my vision and they showed themselves to me and said, "This
Oh
is who it
wow.
is." At the time that it happened, I didn't realize who it was. I just knew it was a craft because just the way that it was moving and stuff. So I was like, "Oh, like we got a flyby." And it was a craft that I didn't recognize, because if I've seen them before and I know the frequency, I usually know, oh, that's this specific craft or that's this being or whatever. This one was a new one. I hadn't met them before. But then a couple hours later, when I was going to bed, I had a vision of them and they showed me, actually, they come through in a cow form, the Hathors.
Mhm.
So they showed me the cows and then they said, we're the Hathors. And so that's when I connected that the
Oh wow.
sighting that was them. So I get a lot of physical sightings. I get a lot of craft. There's a couple of craft I'm very deeply in tune with as well, so they're always connected to me. And sometimes I get apparitions of beings coming into the space as well. So depending on what energies I'm working with or what energies I'm closest with at the time, I'll get kind of like shimmering apparitions coming through in my
Mhm.
house as well. But it just depends on the purpose and the timing, and because when beings do come into 3D, there's usually a very specific reason for that. They don't just do it for no reason. So because it takes a lot of energy as well to come into the 3D. So there's usually a very specific purpose. One of the times where I had a very strong connection with the Federation ship, it was actually Ashtar, the Ashtar Command. I was doing a mission in Melbourne, and the energies, they were very distorted, and there were a lot of energies trying to sabotage what we were trying to do. And so I literally woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning with Ashtar walking out of a starship into my bedroom. And I was like, and I freaked out, like I fully freaked out. And they were like, sorry, we didn't mean to startle you, but they're like, we had to come in at that level of convergence to clear the energies that were trying to get in the way. Because I was running an activation event the following day. So they were coming in to support. So sometimes I've had really tangible connections for those sorts of reasons. But otherwise, they're just there, they're around, they tell me where they are, you know. Like the other night I went out and I was asking my starship, the Awaterra, I said, where are you? And they just said, oh, we're in Japan doing something. And I was like, can you come and give me a flash? And they were like, nah, like we're just doing our thing, you know? So it's not like they come on demand, you know, it's like they'll come when they want to and when they need
Yeah.
to. And I mean, sometimes they do, sometimes it's just a beautiful, loving connection. But
Yes.
other times they say to me, they're like, no, we're over here doing this other thing. And they'll send me like a little telepathic wave, you know?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
uh, this happened to me. It's like that when you start connecting with them, it affects your family. So there's one time where my kids suddenly see a snake type ship. Then when we went outside, it hid itself. Then my wife also encountered a different ship because I started encountering ships. And when I encountered the first time the Arcturians, the whole street, the dogs started barking. So I know
Right.
I'm like I'm still in this realm. Then suddenly I saw this huge ship. Then they waved and beamed something downloads. Then they went away. Then the dogs quiet down. And I think it affects everyone around you. It opened them up. So does your family starts encountering other entities as well?
Look, I think it's different for each family.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had that experience with my family. I opened up a lot earlier than a lot of them did.
Oh,
And
okay.
I think the rest of my immediate family, well, my partner has had a couple of sightings now with me,
Mm-hmm.
but the rest of my family hasn't had any sightings. So I think it depends on how ready they are
Yeah.
and where they're at in their soul journey as well. And one of the things that I've learned is just to be really patient and open-minded with our family members as well. Because in some instances, it just takes one person and suddenly it just opens up. And in other instances, people need to go through their own journeys as well. So like my parents have never seen a starship. You know, my brother never seen a starship. My sister probably never seen a starship. So I think it just depends on each individual soul's journey. And if you are having the experience where your whole family's in on it together, I think that's really beautiful, you know? Like
Oh.
it's wonderful to be able to share that with them if that's the experience that you guys are having.
But you know, when we started, they always say, "You're crazy." That's what how we start
Yeah,
anyway.
I
So
mean, yeah, and for me, like years down the track, my parents still don't know. So I
yeah.
mean, they're more open minded to it now. Like actually, my parents, they're always sending me like anytime my mum sees an article about UFOs on the news, she'll send it to me now, you know. And my dad, like when I came back from my most recent trip, he was asking me, even though he doesn't fully, you know, he hasn't experienced it, he was asking me, also, did you see the UFOs or did you have the experience? And I said, yes, I did. I actually, you know, I saw lots of them, and he was happy that I had the experience, even though he hasn't had it yet himself.
Mhm.
So there's, you know, it's just everyone's at their different levels of understanding and their experiences as well.
Yeah. And depends on how ready are they to experience it. And I think because some people are trying to use them as a scapegoat to like neglect their responsibilities to change themselves and for the better, or to
Right.
expand themselves. And they think that when the galactics come, they will change everything so that they can fit their current story to the future. But when my guides keep on saying that your story that made you or let you survive from your childhood all the way to now doesn't normally take you from now to where you want to go. So they say you have to, evolve as well. Do your part and you can if you're ready, then you will experience things, and you will be tested, and you will be like, you will have circumstances that will happen, and it will let you know that if you're ready for it, then it will come, regardless of if you like it or not.
Well,
If you're
that's
ready.
exactly,
Yeah.
and I think you've raised a really important point there, because connecting with galactics doesn't give us an excuse to not do the work. Like, yes, we can learn from them. Yes, there's a lot of wisdom available, but we as a human race, we actually still have the responsibility of evolving ourselves, and I'd rather do it with their support than without, but it's not a crutch. It's
Yeah.
every person still has to step up for themselves, to open their own hearts and to go through their healing journey and to go through their soul's journey, to then be able to embrace that next level of consciousness. And if the galactics do come, not if, when the galactics do come, anyone who's not fully evolved and wants to keep living out that 3D story, and they're going to be able to do that in a different space. I mean, a lot of people talk about this idea of new earth, but then also there's going to be a shifting in realities. The people who are ready and the people that choose it will step into new earth, and the people that want to keep experiencing a more third dimensional vibration, they will go somewhere where they can do that, and it's fine, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's everybody's, it's each to their own. So I think, again, that's where the choice part of it comes in, is you get to choose what pathway you want to walk, and all of it's okay. It's all okay. It's all beautiful. It's all loved. It's just, we get to make choices.
Yeah. And we have to respect every other people's choices, even though it's your family.
Oh, yes,
Yes.
absolutely. I think that's the hardest. It's the hardest
Yeah.
thing, because I mean, for me, when I first started understanding all of this knowledge and these connections, and I couldn't talk to my family about it because I didn't understand,
Yeah.
that was really hard for me. And I did, I think sometimes the initial response is, you want to then preach to them, you want to teach them, because, oh, I found a better way, I have this amazing thing, why don't you want to know about it? It took a deeper level of maturity to get
Mhm.
to where I am now and go, I have this experience, but that doesn't mean it's their journey.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And when we go out to dinner and we have our interactions, I meet them where they are. I don't need them to know my world, because I can still love them for where they're at.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people struggle with that, because especially in the early stages when you feel alone, and really having an awakening on some level, it does change your identity. I think it changes who you fundamentally are. I think it changes what you think about yourself, how you see the world. So those are really big paradigm shifts. And if your immediate family and close friends don't share that, it can sometimes be quite disruptive.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people have the experience where they cut ties with all their friends and all their family. I think, well, that's not loving.
Yeah.
Like, if you're on this spiritual pathway, can you find a way to have your journey and still love them for where they're at? Because
Yes.
that's a much higher level of maturity than saying, oh, everybody's in a low vibration and they eat this and they watch this and they do this, so I'm not going to talk to them anymore. Where's your love in that? Like, where's
Yeah.
your love? And I just think there's a pathway of being able to be awake, having whatever journey you have. If your family have joined you in that, great, you're lucky, you're very blessed to have that. But if they're not, can you love them anyway? And I think that takes a much higher level of consciousness to be able to meet them where they're at and not need them to be anywhere or anything other than what they are right now.
Beautifully said. And I really, what they call this, I in line with what you're saying. And before we end, I would like to ask just some curious questions. So what will you say little Isha as advice?
Yeah, oh, I love this question. you know I think the number one thing that I would tell her is, I would go back and just say to her, you are so perfect. You are so loved. Don't be anything other than yourself. Don't listen to what the world tells you to be, because you are already beautiful and whole as you are. You came to this earth as this beautiful soul, and all you are here to do is to be yourself. So just be yourself unapologetically. Be yourself. Be who you are. You are the gift to the world. And that's not just to my little self. I think that message can go to a lot of people out there today. because you are that, and if I had known that as a child, I probably would have just cared a lot less about what other people, probably
Yeah,
would have been a lot happier for it.
yeah,
So I think that's a message that we can all take away, is just
yeah.
to really be who we are and remember that just your presence, the gift is life, and you are the gift. And that's it.
Wow, that's awesome. So where can people find you and the wonderful things that you're doing?
Everywhere. Facebook, Instagram. And you search my name, you can't miss me. Best place to catch me is my website. That's eeshapatel.com. That's EESHAPATEL.com. Come and say hello on the socials. I'm always up to connect with new, amazing, beautiful souls that I haven't met before in this journey.
Yeah. So I could talk for you for hours, and so bad that we only have an hour. So thank you for attending the show, and I'm honored that you're in here. Thank you.
Thank you. It's always my pleasure and honor to serve however I can, Lawrence. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me as well. Have a good night or good morning.